Hi, today I'll be showing you how to install Windows 10 in a virtual machine using VirtualBox. If you haven't installed VirtualBox already and are wondering how to do so, there's a tutorial video on my channel that you should go and check out. Once you've got VirtualBox installed, the next thing we're going to do is download the installation media. Microsoft actually offer a free 90-day evaluation version of Windows Enterprise which you can download, and I'll provide the link in the description. From there, just fill out the form, grab the Windows Enterprise 64-bit ISO, save the file somewhere memorable, and you'll also want to grab the Windows VirtIO drivers, which I'll also link in the description. This part is completely optional, but it means that VirtualBox doesn't have to emulate the network interface card, saves resources, and also can make your networking run a little bit quicker in your virtual machine. So without further ado, let's move into VirtualBox and create the VM. So what you're going to want to do is click New, give the machine a name, make sure you've selected the correct location for your virtual machine files to be created, leave the type of Microsoft Windows, and as I've typed in Windows 10, it's automatically picked up that it's Windows 10, and it's assumed that it's 64-bit, because really, unless there's a specific reason to use 32-bit, you're always going to want to use 64-bit. Leave the memory size as 2 gig. You can set it higher if you have a lot of memory on your system, but leave at least 2 to 4 gig free for your host. Any less is probably going to give you a bit of a slow time, but 2 should be fine. Leave create a virtual hard disk now ticked and click create. Just double check that the hard drive file is being created in the correct place. Usually you would want to leave it as the same location as the other files created in the previous step, and leave the file size to 50 gig. Because we're actually creating a dynamically allocated disk, that 50 gigabyte isn't going to be consumed straight away. What will happen is, as the space is used with the Windows installation, that file size will grow up to a maximum of 50 gig. And we're going to leave the hard disk file type as VDI. Click create again. Cool, so now your machine is available in the list here. But before we turn it on and start installing Windows, we're going to want to do a few things first. So in the System tab, you're going to want to disable the floppy disk option in the boot order. Leave the processor and acceleration as they are. On storage, you're going to want to create a new optical drive and just leave that empty for now. So you've got 2 disk drives essentially in this virtual machine. In the first disk drive, browse to your Windows 10 evaluation copy and add that. And in the second disk driver, add the VirtIO driver ISO. And make sure both of those are hot pluggable, which means you can remove the disk drive when the machine's running. On the audio section, just disable that, as we're not going to need audio. Again, it just saves resource, which you always want to be doing with virtualization. And for the network, leave it attached to NAT. That will allow you to access the internet from your virtual machine through your host, or you could choose an internal network if you want to have it completely isolated. Click Advanced there and go to Adapter Type and change that to the Paravirtualized Network. This type won't work unless you have the VirtIO drivers, so if you're not installing those, just leave it on the Intel Pro 1000 MT desktop. And that should be it. So we'll click OK, and we're going to start the virtual machine. Once the VM loads up, you can see the Windows logo, which shows that it is loading the Windows ISO that you've inserted. And you'll see the Windows setup page. Choose it, change it to your desired language. I'm going to leave it as United Kingdom in this case. And click Next and click Install Windows. Accept the license terms after, of course, thoroughly reading them, and click Next. click Custom Install Windows Only, and click Next on the drive 0 unallocated space, which will show as 50 gig, but isn't actually taking up that 50 gig yet. Right, from here, Windows will install, and I'm going to make a coffee. So I've had my coffee and Windows has installed, and now we just need to set it up. So select the correct region for you. I'm in the United Kingdom, so I'm going to leave that as it is, and click yes. And that is the correct keyboard layout. I'm not going to add a second keyboard layout, so I'm just going to click skip. And after a few moments, we're going to be asked to set up a network connection. Now, because we haven't installed the network drivers yet, there's not going to be any options here, so we're going to need to click I don't have internet. But because Windows really wants you to be connected to the internet, we're going to have to click continue with limited setup here. Create an account for this computer. For this case, I'm just going to add a user account called user and click next. You can skip creating a password just by clicking next there with password box blank. And I'm basically just going to not enable any of these additional features. If you feel like you want any of these, feel free to enable them, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just not going to enable anything. So click no, no, I think that's basic, no, no. Windows has a lot of these optional features now during setup, but after we've got through that, Windows is now going to go ahead and log in the user account for the first time. Windows actually takes quite a long time to do this in Windows 10 as opposed to previous versions. So this can take up to 5 minutes. So I'm going to grab another coffee. So now our user account has logged in for the first time, but there's still a few things we need to do. The first thing you'll notice is that if you click the network icon there aren't any available networks. As I said before, this is because we haven't installed the network interface drivers yet. If you're not using the VirtIO drivers, you won't need to worry about this. But if you have, what you'll need to do is go to your start menu and search for device manager, and then press I dislike the new Windows search. There we go. It will appear eventually. It's just a little bit slow. And what you'll see in the device manager is that the Ethernet controller device has a yellow exclamation mark next to it, which means there's no driver installed for it. So what you're going to want to do is right click that and select update driver and browse the computer for driver software, and then select browse there. If you scroll down, you'll see the CD drive with the VirtIO drivers disk image there. So select that, click OK, and you'll see it's just changed to the E drive. Leave include subfolders ticked and click next. Windows will find the appropriate drivers, ask you to install them, and within a few seconds that will complete, and you will now see that there is a network connected. Click yes to allow this to be discoverable by other PCs on the network, as there are none. And you'll now see in the networks list we have a network. So close down Device Manager, and if we were now to open up the Edge browser, that we are able to access the wider internet. So with that out of the way, the next thing we're going to want to do is add support for different screen resolutions. Your virtual machine at the moment is stuck to a select few resolutions, For example, if you resize the screen, the virtual machine resolution doesn't automatically complete, and if you were to enable full screen mode, that's all you get, which obviously isn't ideal. We want to be able to use the full resolution that's available to us, as well as enable some other features. So what we need to do now, while we've still got our disk drives mounted on the virtual machine, is go into Devices and insert the Guest Additions CD image. Wait a few seconds and then go to your File Explorer again, and you'll now see that the D drive has been changed from the Windows installer image to the VirtualBox Guest Additions. Open that up and select the AMD 64 image, as we're on a 64-bit machine. Run that. Click yes on the user account control and run through the installer by clicking next, next, and leave all of these components ticked and click install. You'll see some weirdness and flickering as this installs drivers, including for the display, but this installation should only take a few moments. Once that's complete, you'll be asked to reboot your machine to apply the changes, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Because we left the user password blank, Windows will go ahead and automatically log us back in here. While we're waiting for that to happen, he says, as it finishes, go back to your VirtualBox Manager, right click your virtual machine and click Settings, and click Reload if that appears. Go to the storage section, and because we've left the hot pluggable option on these drives ticked, and as we no longer need them, what we can do is right click and remove the attachments there. That's basically removing the CD drives from your machine. Again, it's just saving resources if we no longer need them, and make sure you click OK. If we then go back to our virtual machine and go to our File Explorer and this PC, we will now see that there's only a C drive. You'll also notice that in this case the VirtualBox window has got a little bit smaller. If I now maximize that image, the machine automatically updates to fill the resolution, and again, and it dynamically updates as you resize the window too. It also enables the full screen mode there, so you can use all of your available space, and you get a little toolbar there if you then want to come out of it. So now you have a fully working Windows 10 virtual machine that you can do what you want with, basically. So thanks for watching. The next video will be how to set up Server 2019 in the same way.